Good morning, everyone. I'm Lincoln-Goldfinch here with you on Tuesdays every week, except for last week because of the holiday. But welcome back and welcome to December. Here we go. And I'm here with you, of course, every week to talk about immigration news and updates. I'm answering your live questions, and I'll give you an action tip, something you can do to involve yourself in support of immigrant communities. I know that's something that a lot of us are wanting to do more and more of right now. And sometimes you run out of creative ways to do it. So that's another thing that we like to do here together. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. There was a lot of activity, of course, over the week last week, and there's a lot cooking and immigration. There's a lot to talk about. So let's get to it. Of course, I'm sure everyone heard about the shooting in DC of the National Guard troops. There were two National Guardsmen, a man and a woman, both of whom were shot by an Afghan Asylee. This is a man who was brought over during the transition when the U.S. was pulling out of Afghanistan. He was brought over quickly under, I presume, a parole program that had limited vetting. And then he was actually granted asylum by the Trump administration. And nobody knows why, what radicalized him, what was going on, why he went to DC from Oregon, why he shot those National Guardsmen. But in any event, it, of course, gave Trump the fervor that he wanted and needed to take even more aggressive action against immigrants. And if you're like me, the minute that you saw that had occurred and who the shooter was, you were like, okay, they're going to use this. And that is precisely what they've done. Kristi Noem has gone on media talking about killer migrants. They have completely stopped processing of all asylum applications from anybody around the globe. They're talking about canceling immigration from, what Trump calls third world countries. A list of 19 countries are on that list. Of course, many countries that had absolutely nothing to do with this individual attack. But we are seeing a massive reaction from the Trump administration against migrants and specifically asylum seekers, the vast majority of whom are fleeing abuse and protections themselves. And unfortunately, that's the start of what we're seeing. So one of the first actions that we saw was a halt on processing of all asylum applications. Now, what does that mean? We have hundreds of thousands of people in the system in an already very backlogged system. So what this pause does is, of course, it's temporary. It's indefinite. We don't know how long it's going to last, but it's going to apply to people who have asylum applications pending. And U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service is not going to be issuing asylum decisions, denials or approvals until this is resolved. You guys have probably heard me talk about before how in asylum we have affirmative and defensive asylum applications. And the difference there is an affirmative application is when someone has come in with a visa and they apply for asylum before the agency, and you mail your application and you go to an interview and they make a determination. That's called affirmative asylum. And it is processed by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That agency, of course, reports to the president. And so those applications are currently on pause. But we also have defensive asylum applications. And those are applications that are before an immigration judge, which is technically part of the Department of Justice, but it's a court system where the judge is deciding whether or not to approve or deny an asylum application. There's a big backlog in both affirmative and defensive, and technically the pause that Trump has issued will only apply to affirmative applications, but I anticipate that we are also going to see an impact in the court system as well. It's just too fresh to really know. I also know that we're going to see litigation on this. Somebody's going to file a lawsuit and say the president can't just unilaterally stop asylum. There are international treaties we've signed. There are laws that we've codified since 1980. There's a ton of case law in the court system about asylum. There's a lot of protections for asylum seekers, and the president just can't wake up one day and decide he's upset about one incident that occurred and therefore decide that this country no longer grants asylum to anybody around the globe. That is an absurdity. It is not permitted under our laws, and probably an impact litigation shop, like at ACLU, like a Maldef, will be bringing a lawsuit about this policy. But we're going to, whenever this kind of stuff happens, we have the announcement, we have the impact, we have the lawsuit, and then we have the court order. And that process, we have a lot of experience with this now, because this process has played out so many times for us, both in the first Trump administration and now this year, just hundreds, if not thousands of times, we've seen these illegal policies announced by Trump, and then that results in a court order down the line. It tends to take about 2 months from, the announcement of the policy to some court stepping in. And, if I've just been watching a lot of these this year. So by my guess, my estimation, we're going to have a decision on asylum pausing in the court system sometime in January. But right now, what it means, if you are an asylum seeker, is not that your case is going to be denied or that you can't get asylum. What it means is that you're not going to get a decision, and you're just going to keep waiting. But asylum seekers are very used to waiting. You've all waited a really long time already. And the good news is you are eligible for work permission while you wait. So 150 days or 5 months after you file your asylum application, you can file for a work permit, and you can renew your work permit while your application is pending. So asylum seekers should definitely be continuing to renew your work permission. Okay. Number 2, we've got what they're calling swamp sweep. They love to do these like little names for their enforcement actions. They had the Charlotte's Web in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're calling the New Orleans enforcement action the swamp sweep. This is led by Border Patrol. This is not ICE. We've talked a little bit about, there's a guy named Gregory Bovino who heads up CBP, or actually Border Patrol. He's a hideous human being, and he is willing to lead these, egregious, gross enforcements around the country at Trump's urging. And so that's what we're seeing in New Orleans, and that is coming. It's happening. So New Orleans is on guard and getting ready. The third news item is sort of related to that. Around the country, we're seeing a lot of nonprofit organizations, community organizations, lawyers like me, getting out and doing a ton of community support and engagement with immigrant communities, or just communities of color, honestly, where we're saying, these are your constitutional rights. This is how you interact with law enforcement. This is what you should do and not do. This is how you should prepare and have a safety plan. And, the distillation of this, guys, go to these events, get all these materials. There's so much good support happening, and I applaud everyone in the country who's being involved in that. Here's the net of what you need to know. Number 1, consult with an immigration lawyer if you are an immigrant. Have a lawyer. Have a relationship with a lawyer that you trust. That's a non-negotiable. Number 2, understand your rights and how to interact with law enforcement. You have constitutional rights, even as an immigrant. That doesn't mean that they're not going to try to violate your rights, but you have those rights that can later be enforced in court. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse to be searched. You have the right not to open your door if they don't have a warrant. If you are a business owner, you have the right not to allow ICE or federal authorities into the private area of your business, and you should be exercising those rights. Number 3, if you are the witness to an enforcement action, the best, most helpful thing you can do is be a good witness. Gather evidence, take notes, write down information, get your phone out and record what happened. All of these videos are really making an impact. So keep recording these incidents that you're seeing. If you decide you want to put yourself in the crosshairs and push back, that is a decision that you should make knowingly and with education. So go to an organization that helps people understand how to resist in ways that are legal, if that's what you're going to decide to do. And sometimes it works. I mean, there was a raid in New York City. You guys may have heard about it. And 200 protesters showed up, and the raid got thwarted. There was a little kerfuffle with NYPD going after the crowd, and then people were upset about what's the cooperation between NYPD and the feds, and there's some question about that. I think we can all trust that our mayor-elect, he's America's mayor, is going to have things to say about that. Of course, he will protect the vibrancy of the immigrant community in New York City, but there were some questions about NYPD. But all that is to say, like, that is an example of ways that protesters can push back on enforcement actions, but these things need to be thoughtful and careful and considered. And the best thing you can do if you are witnessing an enforcement action is to take a deep breath, stay calm, at the very minimum, record what was happening and try not to ratchet up the drama and the violence of the incident. And then the final thing that I really want people to understand is if you are an undocumented immigrant, you must have a safety plan, especially if you have children. If you have children, don't wait another day. Today is the day. Get a safety plan. You can find one on my website. You can call my law firm. You can DM me. Go to my website is abogadakate.com. We have a safety planning packet available for download. It has the list of documents that you need, and it has for Texans the caregiver authorization that you need to complete so that somebody else can come and care for your child if you get picked up. Don't let another day go by without a plan or a consultation with an immigration lawyer. That's the net of what you're going to learn in all of these forums, talleres, charlas, etc. They're all good. Go to them, find your community, find your support, but actually take action too. Actually take action. Let's see. Oh, another story I'm sure you guys saw. Of course, I mean, if you're watching this show, you're with me. Like, they told us they were going after dangerous criminals, and then all these stories come out. These people the vast majority have no criminal history. And you probably heard the story of the Babson College student who was flying home to visit her family to surprise them for Thanksgiving. And she got detained at the airport and deported to Honduras before anything could happen. Like, she's in Honduras. It's just disgusting. It's like, now we're safer because this Babson College freshman who was flying home to visit her family is in Honduras. Give us a break. Give us a freaking break. We need a break. Okay, Facebook, Tito Flores. I don't know. Is this a Tito I've known for so long? Or is this a new Tito? A friend from work was stopped this morning in Williamson County and was handed over to ICE immediately. I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me just first say, your friend's immediate family, whoever the emergency contact is, like, is it his wife, adult children, whatever, they can reach out to my firm and we can help. We do detained cases. We can work on bond. We can work on getting him out. If he was in Williamson County, we don't know who pulled him over, but I will say we need to be careful depending on where we are. So DPS, Department of Public Safety, state troopers, they are collaborating with ICE. So immigrants who get pulled over by DPS will be questioned about immigration status, almost certainly. That's something to know. Sheriffs around the state of Texas are now mandated to cooperate with ICE, but it's different levels, right? And they have to enter into the agreement sometime in 2026. So like Travis County, I don't think has signed the agreement yet. All of that is being rolled out. But Williamson County, we know historically has been pretty conservative and anti-immigrant. And so I would expect that if you get pulled over by a Williamson County sheriff, that they're going to ask about immigration status. Travis County Sheriff, in my experience, doesn't do that. Austin Police Department doesn't do that. So different law enforcement agencies have different enforcement agreements, and it's helpful to know where you live. Okay, is this a DPS? Is this a sheriff? Is this the police? And what are they going to do? And also really understand that, like, if you're the victim of a crime, let's say you're a domestic violence victim, that you call the police for help and that you know that you're safe to do that. And you can DM me or put your question here live in the chat about where you live and what the agencies are, and we can think through what the various cooperative agreements are. But Tito, we can help your friend get out if they need it. So just DM me for a consultation. Pablo, any updates on DACA and who can qualify for the T visa? We're still waiting on DACA updates. We're still waiting on Hanen's decision. Hopefully he had a heavy Thanksgiving holiday, contemplating the orders that he is about to issue and how they will impact Dreamers in Texas, and finding a creative way not to revoke work permission for Dreamers in Texas. So Judge Hanen, hopefully some light and love has entered your heart in advance of your decision making. Pablo, T visa, the T visa hasn't changed. It's mandated by Congress. It's a law. The president cannot change who qualifies. To qualify for a T visa, it's for victims of trafficking. And trafficking, the definition of trafficking is when someone has worked under conditions of force, fraud, or coercion. What that means is they were forced into a job, right? Physically forced. Or they were lied to. They were told it was going to look this way, and it turns out it was that way. They were told they were going to be paid for a job, and they didn't get paid. Coercion, they were threatened. They were told, we're going to call immigration on you if you complain. You have to work overtime, and we're not going to pay you. And if you complain about it, we're going to call immigration on you. Any of those like workplace abuses, force, fraud, or coercion at any point in time, it doesn't have to be recent, can lead to eligibility for a T visa. And a T visa can be protective of someone who doesn't have legal status. So it's really important that people who are undocumented, who qualify for legal status, pursue that status. You guys are going to hear a lot of news reports about like people getting picked up, and the tendency is going to be to just go more underground and just say, you know what, I'm not going to file anything. Here's the reality. We are living in a surveillance state, and they are surveilling immigrants. They are watching, they are using cameras that are out on the street. They're called ALPRs, automatic license plate readers. And they're run by companies called Flock or Palantir. And these companies share their data, literally share their data with ICE. So you can just be out on the street and your face, you could have facial recognition software. You could have license plate readers that goes into some database. You register a vehicle in the state of Texas, and that information is shared with ICE. IRS information, Western Union information. We have gone from a country where we have an expectation of privacy to a country where we are being surveilled. I recently started reading 1984 just to get a feeling of it. It's like that. Like that is what is happening. And it's the reality. And so it is not possible in December 2025 to just live under the radar in this country. What that means is if you want to live in this country, then you need to protect yourself. And the best way to protect yourself if you are undocumented is to get legal status. So if you qualify for legal status, sign up with my law firm or a lawyer that you trust and get yourself protected. That's the best thing you can do. Don't hide from that. We are getting every day approvals on work permits and green cards and bonds. We're getting people out of detention. We're getting people citizenship. All of that machine is still operating. So don't let the headlines scare you away from pursuing legal status, because that is the number one thing that you can do to protect yourself if you are undocumented. Okay, this is a question from TikTok. Derivative asylum applications are halted too. And what is the G56 interview notice for? Lou, could you hand me my phone that's up there on the table? Yeah. Let me look at the G56 interview notice because I don't know that acronym. But yes, derivative asylum applications are halted. Here's the thing on a derivative asylum application. An applicant can include spouse and minor children in their asylum application, but only the principal applicant goes to the interview. But of course, the derivatives who are like writers on the application are going to be impacted. So the principal is paused, so are the derivatives. When you have an interview notice, that means you're going for your asylum interview. But a G56 is, okay, it says a call-in letter, not for the for an appointment, not for the interview itself. And the letter should specify the reason, time, and location, which could be for signing a form, submitting evidence, or attending a second interview. I see. It says call-in letter. These are pretty rare. We don't see a lot of these. And it's tells you when to come, the reason for your appointment, and this might be an interview. I don't know why you would have a G56 for an asylum interview unless it's a second, like a follow-up interview. And if you have a follow-up interview for an asylum case, I would have some concerns about what they're doing. Like, are they intending to detain this person? I think you should definitely have a lawyer and talk to your lawyer, and your lawyer should review the whole file and make a plan, a strategy plan based on the letter. So if you don't have a lawyer, reach out to me. If you do have a lawyer, reach out to your lawyer and ask them to help you strategize. Pablo, I was made to work overtime and not paid for it because of my illegal status. It happened 15 years ago. Let's consult, because that sounds like an indicator of a trafficking case. So will you DM me and we'll set up a consultation? Consultations with any lawyer, by the way, guys, are completely confidential, privileged. It's part of our ethical rules as lawyers, which we take very, very seriously. We cannot tell anybody who our clients are or what our clients tell us. It is a very sacrosanct privilege between a lawyer and our clients. And we have a lot of people, a lot of immigrants who are scared to reach out to us or tell us things just because it's such a scary time. And they're like, I don't know, are you going to report me? Are you going to tell anybody I'm coming? The answer to that question is no, for my law firm and any other law firm you go to. Now, that's not true for a notario or a form preparer because they're not lawyers. But anytime you go to a lawyer who has a law license, we maintain your confidentiality. And that's one of the most important things that we do as lawyers. So you can trust your lawyer, and you can and should tell them everything so that we can give you good advice. It's kind of like a doctor, a doctor can't share your medical information. It's like that. Okay, Fam Diaz, what's your opinion on Maldef defending Texas DACA holders before 2021 to get to stay? I'm going to have to look at that. I am unaware of Maldef. Did they make a distinction before 2021? Let me see. And where did you hear about this? Is this part of the negotiations that are going on? I know that on the 24th, there were written arguments. And is this something that came out in the written arguments on the 24th? I didn't see something about that. Let me look at that. If you have something else you want to share on it, let me know. But before I will opine on it, I will get more information, which I think is just a generally good policy. Okay, TikTok. Principal was granted Asylee status in 2022. Okay, great. And G56 was for the I-730. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So that's a good news item. And my guess is, of course, they didn't, when they make the announcement about asylum, they didn't say it also applies to I-730. So an I-730 is a type of, it's not a derivative. It's a follow-up on an asylum application. It's like a family, it's a, later on inclusion of a family member. So this is not a derivative application. I would make the argument that the 730s are not asylum seekers, and so therefore should not be considered under the pause. But I would anticipate that there was not a lot of direction or clarity provided about this policy. And so I think that we don't know. We don't know how this is going to impact. But I think going to the G56, going to the interview is a good idea. And definitely having a lawyer at that interview is important. Okay, in YouTube, Ella, what about the recent incidents of people being caught by ICE at the interviews? Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So and this is one of the things that I think can kind of swing too far, because there have been a handful of arrests of people who are going for their green card interviews. And then, of course, there's media reports on that. And then, of course, there's a lot of people I've seen videos on TikTok where people, even lawyers, are like, they're arresting everybody at interviews. We have interviews in my office every single day. of people going to get their green card or their citizenship. We have not had one person detained in an interview this year in a surprise way. So we have, in the past, like in the 20 years I've done this, I can think of 2 or 3 people who were detained at the interview. One of them had a serious criminal history that they didn't tell us about. Another one had a deportation order that we didn't know about. So it was like those kinds of things came up at interviews. So I have seen it happen. What I can tell you is that I am not seeing a trend of people being picked up at interviews. And the ones that have been reported, I've done some digging. I haven't like talked to all of these people, of course, but I've read the articles. As far as I can tell, there is something in the history of the people who are being detained that is leading to the detention. Not that it's justified, not that I agree with it at all, but I think the distinction is important between someone who entered with a visa, has never been arrested, married a U.S. citizen, and is going for their green card interview, which is, most of them, and someone who was apprehended at the border and then re-entered, or has a criminal history, has some kind of complication. That there is a distinction there. And so what I think is that everybody who goes to any type of immigration interview needs a lawyer. And I haven't always said that. In the past, I've said, if your case is clean, citizenship case, totally clean, fully confident in English, comfortable with the form, it's a want, not a need to have representation. That's when the agency is safe. When the agency is crazy, like they are now, you need representation. And our job as lawyers is to comb through everything, make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and you are safe to go. And that's what we do. And what I can share is that we have not had any clients picked up in interviews, and my colleagues and friends haven't either. There have been a handful around the country of arrests that get overreported, and then people all of a sudden get the message that, oh, okay, they're arresting at USCIS too. And so far, that's not what we're seeing. If that changes, I will tell you guys. I will give you the information. My job is to protect you and to give you the information that you need. And right now, I think the best protection that undocumented people can have, if you're eligible for legal status, is to pursue legal status. Get yourself legal status. Don't stay undocumented, because the most dangerous thing is to be undocumented right now. So that's my advice for the moment. And I'll keep watching all this stuff. And every time I see one of these articles about somebody who got picked up, the first thing I do is go in and review it and look at what the facts are to see if trends are changing. So that's what I do behind the scenes. Okay, let's get to the action item for the week. Always I want to give you guys something to do. This one's a local one. I've told you about, we have the cafecitos every Saturday, first Saturday of the month at our firm. They're very fun, community events. Clients come, the team comes, we hang out. It's very fun. This weekend, we are changing from a cafecito to a mercadito on Sunday evening. It's a posada and a market, a bazaar at the law firm from 5 to 8. We've got a bunch of vendors there selling their art, their crafts. We've got piñatas, mariachis, storytelling. It's going to be a blast, super sweet. We cannot forget to celebrate. We cannot forget to have fun and enjoy each other and our community and our vibrant immigrant community. Do not let that stop. And that's what we're doing on Sunday. We're celebrating, and I invite all of you to be there with us, to shop at the market, get to know the firm, get to know the team, feel supported and loved by your community. And that's what we're doing Sunday, December 7th from 5 to 8. Final follow-up question: when can I do a consultation? Right now we're booking 2 days out. So if you contact us today, what is today? Tuesday, you'll get an appointment on Thursday. Sometimes we're next day. Right now we're like 1 day backlogged. So, but very fast. We'll get you an appointment very quickly. So just send me a message and we'll get you on the calendar. Thanks everybody for being here. I'll see you jueves en español. Adiós.